Week 1, Gardner-Johnson's going to be in there. I think he's going to swim just fine. I think it was overstated a little bit by Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni that the mirroring of being a nickel cornerback and safety in the Eagles system.
Yeah, by the way, we asked Avonte Maddox. He didn't know what the hell we were talking about. He's like, no, they're two completely different positions.
John McMullen and Jody McDonald, your Mac First 365 guys. If you streamed on in today, that means you at least like the show a little bit. Do you like it a little bit? If you do, hit that like button. Give us a helping hand with our algorithm. What are we going to ask them to do, John?
Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. We're exploding here on the JAKIB Sports channel.
Oh, I hope we're not exploding like Jalen Reagor, because we kept saying that about Reagor. Exploded all the way out of town. How did all his exploding?
Yeah, he's got explosive traits. By the way, you were right. I forgot to add LaMichael Pirine into the practice squad. So the Eagles do have one spot. So they have one spot left. Yeah.
And I saw Pirine play both the last 2 years for the Jets. Okay, nothing special. 4th round pick. They gave him a chance. He did carry the ball.
He's special here. They need something at running back. So, hopefully he's got some. What was he? A 4th round pick, I think.
Yeah, 4th.
I don't know how things worked out for him with the Jets, but he is about 215. So, at least he brings that kind of presence that they haven't had, and we've been expecting the Eagles to add that, and we'll see if it works out a little bit. But we were talking about if something happens to Miles Sanders. I agree with Mike. It'll be Boston Scott, and they'll just keep Kenny Gainwell as the 3rd down hurry-up back, so they won't ship that. And if they need a big back later in the season like Jordan Howard, they'll have to see obviously what Pirine does in practice and all that, but he would be the guy, I would think, right now.
See, having watched him play with the Jets the last couple of years, and I've seen every single Jet game, because if I don't see it, I tape it, I get back to it. It depends on how you want to define power runner. I'll tell you just my personal scouting opinion. Boston Scott is a better power runner than LaMichael Pirine. Pirine might be a little physically bigger, but that doesn't really mean anything. You have to be willing to throw that shoulder in there and move the pile against 2 guys. I don't want to call him a cutback runner. He's surely not a speed runner. He's not a guy who's just going to get to the corner and out sprint the guy and be able to turn it upfield and get 3 or 4 extra yards. But he's not a plow ahead type runner either. And I think that's what Eagle fans have been looking for. We need a guy who's going to move the pile. LaMichael Pirine is not that back. If that's what the Eagles are signing him for, I'll tell you, I've watched the last couple of years and said, he's not going to do that for you. Boston Scott is better at his smaller size, better moving the pile than LaMichael Pirine is. I'll give you a guy who is kind of like LaMichael Pirine, except for me, only better. And if need be, drop the shoulder, move the pile, a guy that could absolutely get you that 2 yards when you need it on 3rd and 2. Trey Sermon from Ohio State was cut yesterday by the 49ers. Now, I thought he was going to be a big-time back, like a starting back type guy, a bell cow-like back, and he has not been that for the 49ers since he was drafted. I was actually surprised the NFL had this one more right than I did. I thought he could be a 2nd-round pick. I think he was 4th for the 49ers.
I think it was third, but I'm not. I'll look him up real quick.
Yeah, I thought he had a chance to be early day too, and he wasn't. But the 49ers cut him. And here's why.
Third round, 88th overall.
Okay. Yeah, I thought he could go higher than that. So, and now the fact that he's cut just.
By the way, he started at Oklahoma before he went to Ohio State. and he was in the same backfield with Kennedy Brooks, Trey
Really?
Sermon. Yeah.
And Kennedy is one of the returning practice squad guys
Yeah.
for the Eagles. Good for him. If you're just looking for the power guy who can just purely with his physicality move a pile and get a first down, I think he's better than LaMichael Pirine. Did the Eagles miss out on an opportunity here, or have I just been overrating Sermon since I saw him go stone cold dominant at Ohio State?
When we're talking about practice guys, I mean, yeah, it's tough to say. You know, I haven't seen either of them play that much. I will say San Francisco is the best running scheme in football. So, you know, if he didn't succeed there,
yeah,
that's kind of a
bad sign,
a red flag for me.
Speaking of which, and I'm sorry to interrupt, John, I just got to double check this. Did I miss Jaquiski Tart signing with somebody yesterday?
That I missed it.
Okay.
It happened,
but neither one.
Yeah,
just had to double check because I tried to stay on top of this stuff. You're better at than me. I just needed to make sure I didn't miss something that he had actually signed on with someone.
Yeah. Did we get an apology? I don't know. I'm waiting for my Howie Roseman apologies too. I got lambasted when I said he was a top 5 GM. Now everybody will say top 10 now. They won't go top 5, but he is top 5.
He's borderline top 5. He's certainly top 10, and he might be number 5.
I got murdered for that.
I'm close with you on that one, Mac.
I got murdered for that, but it doesn't matter. It's part of the gig. Yeah, Jaquiski Tart. I did hear, and I meant to go back and look. I didn't see it. I think he posted something on Twitter about not getting an opportunity or something of that nature, but I don't know.
The Eagles?
Yeah.
Really? I don't follow.
Yeah. And I never went back and looked, but yeah, that was weird. I mean, as much as I snickered at, you know, he's a great safety, he's this, he's that. I did think he had, you know, a chance to make this team, and he didn't. Like I said, he didn't even get one first team rep the entire preseason. But you know, they were able to get Anthony Harris back on the practice squad. I still think that's a mistake for this reason. And I go back, and I always tell you, Moneyball is one of my favorite movies. Baseball, not football, but I always hear that Jonah Hill line. You know, your goal is not to buy players. Your goal is to buy wins. I was just talking about week 1 in Detroit. Now they're probably going to win the game. We're both on that same, and you even more so than me.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be competitive.
I'm concerned about, you know, not having Chauncey Gardner-Johnson up to speed. I'm concerned about having to put Kayvon Wallace or Reed Blankenship out there if he's not up to speed.
He's going to be up to speed. Believe me, let me reiterate. They're throwing him in the deep end of the pool.
Yeah. Either way, if you're right, and I think you're going to be right, my point is he might not be ready. You know, they can throw him in the deep end of the pool, but if he's blowing coverages, you know, what good does that do you?
He's got to swim, yes.
Yeah. Anthony Harris signed for $2.5 million, Jody. They already paid him $1 million of that in the guarantee and the signing bonus. So, you know, they're doing this thing, the week 1 thing that I explained with Jaquiski Tart. If he's on the roster week 1, that $1.5 million is completely guaranteed. Who cares? Would you pay $1.5 million to have competency as an insurance policy for week 1? Buy a win. Go buy a win and have competency. I don't understand why they just didn't keep Anthony Harris on the roster. And guess what? Then if you can cut him and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is ready to go, cut him then. So $1.5 million. Who cares?
That's what I said about Mr. Tart, because that same theory was espoused that I think it was you said maybe they'll drop him and then bring him back. Why bother? Really? The flexibility of being able to get out from underneath means that much.
They're really obsessed with it.
The reason they cut Tart was because Tart wasn't good enough. Not because his salary was cumbersome. They signed him to the salary. They decided they could afford the salary. The flexibility of being able to cut him is ridiculous.
No, I'm with you with Tart. They just cut him because he deserved to be cut. But with Harris, I could see him being back in week 2. And I could see them doing that. Let's save the money. Let's be fiscally sound, or whatever you want to call it. I could see him being back in week 2 when the salary's not being guaranteed as that insurance policy. Remember, week 2, Minnesota, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, now Jalen Reagor. You can't blow coverages against those guys with Kirk Cousins throwing the football. I could see Anthony Harris back in week 2. The $1.5 million for this team as an insurance policy, I disagree with the wrangling, even though they were able to get the player back.
Here's why I'm a little bit more. I think your point is dead on, but it's a hedge by the Eagles, and I'm okay with the hedge just because of the way the schedule lays itself out. Week 1, Gardner-Johnson's going to be in there. I think he's going to swim just fine. I think it was overstated a little bit by Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni that the mirroring of being a nickel cornerback and safety in the Eagles system.
Yeah, by the way, we asked Devontae Maddox. He didn't know what the hell we were talking about. He's like, no, they're two completely different positions.
I think it was overstated by the powers that be when they announced the trade, but there are certainly similarities. I think he'll be kind of shaky week number 1, but I don't think he's going to drown. If they're throwing him in the deep end of the pool, I don't think he'll drown. I don't think I'm on St. Brown will run right by him and catch an 80-yard touchdown pass. No, I'm not worried about that. But there might be enough on tape for them to go, yeah, we still need to give him time. We acknowledge we threw him into the deep end of the pool. And then, I'm going to want somebody I can throw in and trust the second week of the season. That's why they did what they did. If they had lost the player because you put him on waivers and he signed somewhere else, then I go, they rolled the dice here and they paid a price. They didn't. They got him back for the practice squad. They can plug him in if need be, week 2, week 3, whatever, until their starting safety gets up to speed with doing everything. I think maybe there's some luck involved, but I think they actually played their cards the right way there,
John. You're probably right, but it is a calculated gamble.
Yeah, it was.
And that's all I'm saying. But it still is. Even though they got the player back on the practice squad, it still is because you don't have them for week 1. And at least you would have had that insurance policy for $1.5 million. That's how I look at it. You would have been very comfortable in week 1 for $1.5 million. Is that worth it? For the Eagles, it wasn't worth it. I disagree with that. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay.
It'll probably work out. I'm with you. I'm still going to pick the Eagles to win the game. I think you're right. I think Gardner-Johnson will be thrown into the deep end of the pool. I think he'll struggle a little bit, but he'll do enough to win the game. And week 2, they might have Anthony Harris back, and they might have the insurance policy, and everything works out. That little inkling, it bothers me because it's such a cheap price tag. That's the only reason it bothers me.
Here's what it comes down to. I think it's pretty darn simple. If they had cut Reed Blankenship, would anybody else have claimed him? They like the player.
I doubt it.
They think he's going to be a real good player down the road.
If they would have cut Kayvon Wallace, nobody was claiming Kayvon Wallace.
Okay, you want to go Kayvon instead. You're probably right. The guy who was more likely to be claimed was probably Blankenship over Cave. You're right.
Look, Jody, 33 stinking players got claimed. So everybody overrates this every year. And by the way, two Eagles got claimed. Jack Anderson, no surprise there, because I thought Jack was going to make this football team. The Eagles have a reputation for developing offensive linemen. but Josh Blackwell got claimed, which I did not see coming. The Eagles waived him before and brought him back.
He didn't get claimed when they cut from 85 to 80.
But the Chicago Bears claimed 6 of those 33. How bad is that roster? The Giants, I believe, claimed 4, or I think Jacksonville was at 5. We know that's a bad roster. Giants were 4, and they got Jack Anderson, and they're gonna get a good player in Jack Anderson. I think he can play a little bit. But Tellen brings up, why not demote Kayvon Wallace to the practice squad and elevate Anthony Harris? Yeah, you can do that, but then his salary is guaranteed for the entire year, which is the whole reason they cut him. So I hope they come to their senses over the next week and just elevate Anthony Harris and say, you know what, we probably shouldn't have done that, and we'll pay him the $1.5 million and be done with it and pay him for the whole season. Then you have that competency on the back end just in case, as an insurance policy. But the fact that they cut him, they're not going to bring him right back because he's vested. And if he's on the roster week 1, his salary's guaranteed for the entire season.
You know what it'll probably be decided upon? They've now thrown him into the pool practice. If he is doing the doggy paddle and looking okay, then they're not going to do anything. If his head's underwater and he seems lost, then it seems like it's a bit too much. Then they may actually go to that, John. They may go,
and then they got lucky then, because they could have lost the player.
Could have,
and then it's just pure luck.
It's a little luck. Then you should have
just kept him. Yeah. It's cheap insurance.
That's what they pay Howie Roseman for, is to have a read on the rest of the league. You got to know your own team, but you also got to know what the other 31 teams are going to do, or at least have a good guesstimate at what they're going to do. And he guesstimated right that no one.
Well, the curveball, you're right, but the curveball is the player might be upset and not want to return.
True, but once you get him done, you also have to be able to read that the guy will come back and I'm sure you saw it. NBC Sports had a real nice feature on him. To his credit, he went out and did a personal appearance for a charity, even after he was given his walking papers.
He's a great dude.
Over in Cherry Hill. So
dude.
You could tell he was a Philly guy, really likes his time here in Philly. So maybe they relied on that to, in part, make their decision. And we'll see. Maybe he's elevated. Maybe he is back on the roster, and the Eagles go, yeah, McMullen's right. We're arguing over pennies here. It's a $1 billion industry, and we're going to pay him. What's the weekly salary of an NFL minimum?
I don't know what the weekly is. 705 is the minimum salary this year per rookie player.
Right, as compared to the veteran minimum, which is he now would get if they elevate him. It's not that big a difference.
No.
So if it is that big a deal in the eyes of the coaching staff and Howie Roseman, I think the Eagles will do that. I don't think they're going to, because I think they're going to throw Gardner-Johnson to the wolves in the deep end of the pool, and I think he's going to swim just fine. So when the game is over and done with,
probably right. But I'm here to hand ring, Jody. I like to ring some hands.
If need be, I'll ring hands with you, big guy. But in this case, I don't think it's necessary. All right, quickie timeout. When we come back, we'll have one of our favorite national guys join us. Chris Landry, former NFL coach and scout. Landry.
Now, Dave Zangaro today. You're jumping ahead. We're going to have Chris Landry tomorrow.
I'm trying to get the Friday in the works. And you've had a tougher week than I have, but you and I are both trying to get to that weekend ASAP. Dave Zangaro from NBC Sports Philadelphia is going to join us next here on Birds 365.